There was a knock on the door, then another that seemed to stir Na-Yeon from her slumber. She was sleeping peacefully in Cheong-san's grasp after another passionate night together. Na-Yeon had wanted to feel something. She needed to feel like he hadn't changed, remembering all that had happened after meeting up with everyone. Another loud knock startled her as she felt Cheong-san's grip on her tighten as he woke up. "What's that noise?" he asked, quickly sobering up if he needed to fight. "It's someone knocking on the door," she said as she pushed off him to sit up. He looked around as if making sure, then turned to her with a small smile. "Then I guess it's time to get back at it," he said. She was nervous, to say the least. Her outburst yesterday was something she had thought of all night when sleep had escaped her. Sure, Onjo was manipulative, but did she deserve that treatment? She felt Cheong-san's lips connect with her forehead as his arms wrapped around her. Na-Yeon just let herself melt into the embrace that had seemed so frightening once upon a time. "I can see you're thinking too much," Cheong-san said as he rubbed her back, only soothing her worries. "I went off the handle yesterday. Do you think they're going to still be mad at me?" she asked, even though she knew the answer. "I know what you did weighs on you, but you acknowledged it. That's a step in the right direction. It will take time. Time I hope that we have for things to change. But your actions from now on will determine how everyone will see you," Cheong-san said as he held her tighter. He was already thinking in the bigger scheme of what if this was happening all over the world right now, and there was no help coming. It was just going to be their small group, and they all needed each other. Na-Yeon nodded in his grasp. A voice broke their reverie. "Hey, you two. We need to talk." It was Suhyeok. That much they could tell from his voice, and he didn't sound worried, so their world wasn't crumbling just yet. He gave her one final kiss on her temple before looking longingly into her eyes. This, whatever he was feeling for her, whatever it was, buried that hate that had seemed to show itself when he thought of Jong-soo. He wanted it more. He craved it. And from the longingly look that she gave him in return, she wanted it too. He bent down as their lips met in a slow kiss. "Now let's get up. I'm sure they're waiting for us." She gave one more nod as the two grabbed their clothes and put them back on, making sure to try and straighten them out as best as they could. It wasn't said why they were doing this, but Cheong-san could only guess that if some of the more vocal of the group reacted that badly to him and her holding hands, finding out they had slept together, twice now, might create a gap between them. Cheong-san opened the door once he saw that the two of them were ready, and was met by the sight of Suhyeok hanging outside the door. "Glad you decided to wake up from your beauty sleep," he said with a smile that Cheong-san returned. He had slept great even considering the situation they were in. Suhyeok glanced over his shoulder to Na-Yeon, who just looked back undeterred with her arms wrapped and folded over her chest as if shielding herself. "So what did you want to talk about?" Cheong-san asked, breaking the eye contact between the two as he stepped into Suhyeok's sight, obstructing him. Na-Yeon was more than thankful for the action, as she didn't want to immediately have to start fighting with people after she had escaped her peace with Cheong-san. "Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk to you about what we should do next, since we made it here. But we both know that here isn't a long-term thing." Cheong-san nodded. That had been something he had been thinking about. "We need to discuss it with the others, too." Cheong-san and Suhyeok moved on into the center of the classroom as Na-Yeon finally was now able to escape. But as soon as she stepped outside, seated by one of the desks on the other corner of the room, was a tired-looking Onjo. The girl's eyes were locked onto hers with the same fierceness from before. She could only hazard a guess even more. She broke their eye contact, hoping to see at least one indifferent face, but she couldn't find one. Only disgust and lingering hatred. Except for the class president, Namra, who just regarded her with no particular glare, it was more curious, if anything. She decided she would rather be with that than be stuck with the looks of disgust and hate from the others. Na-Yeon pulled up a chair and sat down close to Namra. The girl in question just looked at her more confusedly before looking around the room. "Why seat here? There are plenty of empty seats." That was true, but Na-Yeon wanted to be at least near someone, even if that someone was part zombie. "Less death stares coming from you," she said nonchalantly. "Not that they're undeserved." Namra just looked her up once again before she looked away, not really caring. "You should find a way to clean yourself up, you reek of him." That immediately set Na-Yeon on edge. "What do you mean?" she asked, nervously feigning ignorance. "That might work on the others, but ever since I got my powers, my sense of smell has been overwhelming." She couldn't have been talking about what Na-Yeon thought she was talking about, right? "I'm surprised no one else can smell it. Well, my guess would be the blood and guts probably hide it well and they have other things on their minds," Namra said nonchalantly, as if talking about the weather. "I had to stand by that door when it was my turn for lookout. It was much worse. And you two thought you were being quiet yesterday." Namra was looking around the room, her face expressionless, till her gaze stopped on Suhyeok talking to Cheong-san. "I didn't expect something like that to happen between you two, but I guess stressful situations have unexpected results." Na-Yeon was now very much nervous at the possibility of Namra exposing her. The girl had done it before when she had killed Kyung-soo. Why had she sat down here like that hadn't happened? This girl had already proved she could be ruthless if she wanted to, with how little she regarded everyone else but Suhyeok. "I won't expose you," Namra said, surprising Na-Yeon, who now had a look of awe on her face. "Whatever you two do alone is not my problem, as long as you're not endangering the group." She said those lines as she turned back to lock her eyes with Na-Yeon. "Are you endangering the group?" she asked coldly with a glare that sent a shiver down Na-Yeon's spine, as she knew that this girl was now part zombie and could probably tear her limb from limb. "No, I'm not," she replied, her voice shaky, as Namra seemed to look at her closely as if trying to detect the lie. "What are you two talking about?" Cheong-san asked, settling beside Na-Yeon with a subtle glare toward Namra in warning. The last thing they needed was people going off on a self-made quest for justice, and Namra, now being part zombie, did everything but calm his nerves. When he had seen her looking up and down at Na-Yeon as he talked with Suhyeok on the plan of getting out, all of his nerves had gone haywire. He could probably guess that these two were not going to be the best of friends, but as long as they didn't kill each other, he was fine with that. "We were just talking about your nightly activities," Namra said, but she was more surprised when Cheong-san's face didn't betray any emotions and stared at her blankly. "Okay," he said nonchalantly, but out of sight, he felt Na-Yeon clasp his hand into her own. "Looks like I'm missing out on a party here," Suhyeok said as he sat next to Namra. There was tension in the air between the two pairs, but they both made sure to keep their cool, well on the surface, at least. "So, the plan,"